Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are taking a systematic look at the core principles of professional selling, drawing our insights from the philosophy laid out in How to Master the Art of Selling. This isn't about motivational jargon. This is a deep dive into structure, preparation, and skill.
That's absolutely right. Our mission here is to really systematically distill the core lessons of ethical, skill-based selling. We're focusing on what professional salespeople, and we call them champions, what they do consistently, not accidentally.
Right.
We are going to explore how confidence, which is built through structure, and consistency in applying these learned skills, how that maximizes your income without having to rely on luck or high-pressure aggression.
Okay, let's unpack this and jump right into the foundation mindset. So many people entering the profession, they believe in this myth of the natural-born sales wonder.
Oh, absolutely.
It's tempting to think success is rooted in some inherent charm or gift that you either have or you don't.
It is the most common, and I would say perhaps the most destructive fallacy in this business.
Destructive. How so?
Well, it's destructive because it gives the average person an excuse to stop learning, to stop taking responsibility for their own performance. You know, having trained millions of people, I can tell you this clearly, there has never been a great salesperson who was born great. I mean, can you imagine a newborn infant closing a deal? It's absurd. Everything about selling, from how you structure a presentation to the way you handle a complex objection, it's all a learned skill. Success only comes after you pay the learning price, regardless of your perceived natural talent.
So if the foundation isn't magic, it's work. It's discipline. What does that continuous learning process actually look like for someone who's serious about climbing from, say, average to being a champion? Is this a one-time course? Or?
No, it's a lifetime commitment. It's centered on continuous review. We recommend that professionals, even the top champions, review the basics of their trade once every single year.
Every year, even at the top.
Every single year. They know that this is a professional life where you are either rising or you're sinking. Nobody just floats. The moment you stop training and you stop reviewing the fundamentals, you start sinking. And today, the speed of that sinking is faster than it's ever been before because of market changes, technology. You have to consciously invest time, money, and effort into your mind. It's an investment that always pays off. You know, as we often quote Benjamin Franklin, if you empty your coins into your mind will fill your purse with gold.
That sets a very high standard for professionalism and self-responsibility. So let's discuss the why. For someone considering this commitment, what are the immense advantages that make professional selling such a unique and frankly, a desirable career path?
Well, there are freedoms here that are, they're just unparalleled in the modern career landscape. First, you have the freedom of expression. Sales is one of the few professions where you can truly be yourself. If you're resourceful, persistent, ethical, those qualities are celebrated and they're directly rewarded. You don't have to conform to some rigid corporate culture. You can use your own unique personality to build rapport and trust.
And then there's the advantage everyone talks about, which is the incredible income potential.
That's the second freedom. The freedom to become as successful as you desire, because there is no income ceiling imposed from the outside. The only limit you might see is, maybe the highest income already achieved by someone else in your company. And for a champion, that's not a limit. That's just a challenge.
A target to beat.
Exactly. A challenge to earn more by applying better, more consistent strategies. The leverage return on investment in sales is just fascinating. You can launch yourself into this profession for a tiny fraction of the cost of buying, say, a small franchise. And yet, by diligently applying these systems, you can achieve greater earning power, often much sooner than you could in a traditional salary job.
You also emphasize that the day-to-day work itself is an adventure. You describe this emotional swing from, the heights of exhilaration closing a major deal to the depths of discouragement after a sudden rejection. That fluctuation sounds intense.
It is.
Why frame that emotional roller coaster as a positive?
Because it is exciting. If you don't feel that emotional range, you're not really in the game. Every day presents new problems, new prospects, new opportunities for growth. You have to learn to psych yourself up, to enjoy the challenge, and to go on the prowl for it. The shortest route to high earnings goes straight through the challenges you encounter, not around them. And underpinning all of this is the massive personal growth we talked about. To earn more, you must develop more competence. You study skills, you study your product, you study your customers, and that growth in competence directly drives your personal growth. You become a better, more capable individual just by excelling at your craft.
That deep integration of professional and personal development is really compelling. Now let's get specific about execution. You mentioned that champions simply do the basics very well. So if success isn't about some secret technique, what is this foundational set of tasks, the champion's checklist, that separates the average from the elite?
These are what we call the 7 basics. There's no shortcut, no magical formula you can buy. It is all about execution and consistency.
Okay, let's walk through those 7 points. What's the professional standard for each one?
First is prospecting. Many new salespeople, they get nervous just hearing the word because they associate it with cold calls, with intrusion.
Right. Rejection.
Exactly. But professional prospecting is a learned skill, and it's a predictable system that eliminates that fear. It ensures you always have enough people to talk to. Second, making original contact the professional way. This means having a refined, prepared initial interaction where you immediately create trust and you gather as much initial information as possible. You're preparing the groundwork for the actual selling meeting.
And the third point is where the true efficiency begins, right?
Yeah.
Which is qualifying.
Absolutely. Third is qualifying, which we will cover in depth later, to ensure you are spending your valuable time only with people who can actually say yes, who need what you sell, and who can afford it. Fourth, presenting or demonstrating your offering, not by, playing it by ear, but in an organized, concise, and highly structured way that gets the prospect involved immediately. Fifth is what we call reinforcement. This is so crucial and it's often overlooked. Never despise or forget the labors, the methods, the specific skills that put you on top in the first place. When even a champion slips, it is almost always because they stopped doing the simple foundational things that made them super professional. Things like practicing their scripts, setting their goals in writing, or tracking their ratios.
That makes perfect sense. Complacency is a killer. What are the final 2 basics?
Sixth, closing, which is simply mastering the art of bringing the decision home gracefully and ethically, making sure all the loose ends are tied up. And finally, number 7, getting referrals. No champion ever made serious, sustainable money without establishing a rich, continuous flow of well-deserved referrals. It's the ultimate measure of client satisfaction and the easiest path to new business.
So the mindset and the checklist, they established the framework. But now we hit the unavoidable wall for most people: rejection. If the foundation is based on continuous high-volume contact, how do champions manage and ultimately, neutralize the fear of hearing no?
This is where we introduce the champion's math. It's
Yeah.
a truly transformative way to view the process. We have to challenge the premise that you are paid by the sale. You are not paid by the sale, you are paid by the contact.
Okay, let's break down that calculation with real figures. If I make a sale and it's worth, say, $1,000 in commission, how do I find the financial value of a single contact?
You track your contacts to closings ratio. Let's just stick with a simple ratio of 10 to 1. If you make 10 contacts, you generate 1 sale, and that's worth $1,000.
Right.
Therefore, every single contact you make, regardless of the outcome, whether they buy, refuse, or ignore you, is financially accounted for. It's worth $100. Earnings are started by contacts, not by sales. This realization, it monetizes every action, and it takes the emotional sting out of a no.
Wow.
A no simply means you just earned $100 and you are one necessary step closer to the next yes.
That is a revolutionary shift. It transforms what society sees as failure or rejection into a calculated paid step in the process. It's like an internal accounting system that protects your ego and keeps you moving forward.
Absolutely. And that shift allows the champion to embrace what we call the 5 attitudes toward rejection. First, view rejection as the learning experience. Every rejection is a practical, tailored salesmanship lesson. It's specific to your product, your territory, and the current market conditions.
Yeah.
You paid for that lesson in time and effort, so don't refuse the valuable knowledge it's offering you.
And the second attitude, the course correction.
Yeah.
This is where that famous missile analogy comes in, right?
Precisely. Negative feedback is vital intelligence. Think of a target-seeking missile. It's constantly receiving negative feedback. No, you're off course. That guides it back toward the target. You need that negative feedback to know if your approach is slightly off course. Maybe your script is too fast or your initial question is too vague.
Right.
If every prospect said yes immediately, you would never learn where the real obstacles are or how to refine your pitch.
Without the no, you might just keep flying in the wrong direction, thinking everything is fantastic until you, run out of fuel.
That's the danger. Third, we encourage champions to laugh sooner. When a professional disaster strikes, it's painful, of course, but the hurt vanishes the first time you laugh about it. If you can shorten the time between the disaster and the laugh, You eliminate wasted weeks of lost enthusiasm. Don't wallow, shorten that emotional recovery time.
And the fourth attitude is the fundamental creed of the champion, defining success in relation to failure.
The creed of the champion. I am not judged by the number of times I fail, but by the number of times I succeed, and the number of times I succeed is in direct proportion to the number of times I can fail and keep trying. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's a prerequisite for high success because it fuels the data you need for correction.
The final attitude then focuses on avoiding the danger zones that sink the average salesperson when they feel that pressure.
The danger zones are just avoidance behaviors. They hide at home, they go home early, they take the 3-hour lunch, or they just avoid making contact altogether. Others, they explode in the office, losing their temper and damaging vital relationships. Or they go in circles, avoiding the hard-nosed clients because the possibility of another rejection is too much to bear. Champions become creative when they're faced with resistance. They use that negative stimulus to find a positive way to overcome the objection and close. When you're feeling depressed or in a slump, you must actively deploy the GOYA formula.
GOYA.
Get off your anatomy, because action, and only action, breeds productivity.
It takes incredible willpower to maintain that champion's mindset against that internal emotional rejection. But what happens when the negative pressure isn't internal? What if it comes from the people you work with? Talk about the problem of non-achievers or Jack Bum years.
Jack Bum years is a powerful energy drain. He's the person who has been in the industry for years, hasn't learned a new sales technique in a decade, and just refuses to change. So when a newcomer, a champion in the making, succeeds quickly, Jack is forced to confront his own non-achievement. And that's profoundly painful for him.
So he lashes out.
He tries to stifle that ambition. He'll say things like, "Why are you calling people at this hour? You'll never find anyone in." Or, "Oh, that system only works for the high rollers, not us little guys." These minus people, they want you to join their circle of mediocrity to avoid confronting their own shortcomings.
This is critical for protecting the mindset we just established. How do you practically suggest we protect our social and financial energy from these drains?
You have to surround yourself with financial and emotional pluses, people who are achieving and who are most like the person you want to become. We unconsciously pick up ways of achieving or not achieving from our associates through subtle mirroring. If you spend your time listening to complainers, you rapidly become one yourself.
So you have to cut them out.
You must gradually drift away from the minus people, those who complain or discourage self-improvement.
You suggest avoiding open conflict or dramatic breaks. Why the preference for the gradual drift?
You just don't need conflict or drama. Simply make yourself less available to them and then fill that time with activities that bring you into contact with positive, high-achieving individuals. Join a club, volunteer for a professional committee, attend more advanced training seminars. You simply cannot afford to be popular with the losers if you want to be a champion. Your time and psychological energy are just too valuable to be spent defending your ambition.
That is a powerful transition, because once the mindset is right and the social environment is protected, the next step is generating high-volume opportunities. You have an ultimate formula for success that sounds, well, almost ridiculously straightforward.
It is brilliantly simple, but it demands consistency and discipline. The ultimate formula is this. See 20 people belly to belly every day. And if you are in telemarketing or online sales, you must meet 20 people via phone, video, or internet contact daily.
20 people every single day. That sounds like a massive logistical challenge, especially for someone just starting out. Why that specific number? Why so high?
Consistently meeting people, putting your belly button near 20 others each day, is the key that unlocks every door in selling. It ensures success. Because even if they don't buy, they know someone who will. If you maintain that volume, you cannot fail because you are consistently feeding the top of the funnel. Most failures in sales are simply a result of starving the funnel, not from a lack of talent.
That commitment to high activity volume brings us back to the importance of tracking ratios. Why is tracking your personal performance ratios so non-negotiable for a champion?
Ratios are your navigation system. They're how you steer your ship. If you aren't keeping track of your specific performance, you're driving blind and you're just hoping for luck. Champions track everything. Prospecting calls per hour, prospecting calls per appointments made, presentations per closing success. Tracking allows you to recognize opportunities and, more importantly, to correct potential challenges before they escalate into a full-blown slump.
So if I'm tracking my ratio of calls to appointments and it suddenly drops from 10 to 1 to, say, 15 to 1.
You know instantly that something in your approach needs adjusting. Maybe your prospecting script is weak, or your attitude is slipping, or the quality of your list has deteriorated. Ratios remove emotion from failure, and they replace it with objective data, telling you exactly where to focus your training efforts.
Let's move to specific practical techniques for acquiring these pre-qualified leads. The first one you describe is called the itch cycle. What is this principle, and how do we use it to pre-time the sale?
The itch cycle recognizes that buyers have predictable purchase cycles. We call it pre-timing the sale. People don't buy products randomly. They replace items like cars every 30 months. They replace real estate every 3 to 5 years. And office equipment typically cycles every 3 years.
So you want to be there when they start getting that itch.
Exactly. The champion's goal is to be there ready to scratch when the itch is itchiest. If your product requires weeks or months for custom work or delivery, you need to schedule your recontact appropriately, maybe 2 months before their average cycle is due to end.
But how do we establish a specific buyer's personal itch cycle when we first meet them or during a follow-up?
You turn a simple customer service call into a market survey. It's designed to extract deep data and motivation. Let's go back to the example of Max Polk, a client who bought a speedy ski boat. I called him 18 months after the sale to confirm he was happy. Once he gave me a positive stimulus, he said, "It's the best ski boat my family's ever had." I immediately asked for his help with a market projection survey. The key question is about history.
Okay.
I'd ask Max, how many boats have you owned in the last 15 years?
And if Max answers 5 boats, that instantly gives you his predictable cycle.
Yes, it tells me his personal cycle is about 3 years. I then use that history to ask about his motivations. What specifically caused him to sell the previous boat and buy the new one? Was it size, speed, features? This gives me the exact motivation I'll need for the next sale 18 months from now. I then use that information to categorize the buyer when I'm scheduling recontact. We have 3 main types. The impatient types. They have fast-moving careers, they're decisive, they itch sooner than average. Then you have the conservative types, fixed careers, lower key approach, they itch later. And the rest fall into the average group, who should be contacted about 2 months before the typical cycle ends. The champion understands it as their professional obligation to help busy people become aware that they have a bad case of the itch that they need to cure.
That is brilliant. You're turning customer service into a future sales data collection engine. The second technique, technical advancement, capitalizes on product obsolescence.
It's based on the reality that most products are already obsolete in the minds of their creators the moment they're scheduled for production. When a major innovation arrives, like the transition to high-definition television or a new, significantly faster piece of machinery, you capitalize on that gap.
What's the specific strategy there?
You call everyone who already owns the prior product. These are your ideal clients because they already demonstrated a willingness to buy the best available at that time, and they often cannot afford not to have the best now, especially if they are competing professionally. You call your old customers first, and then you figure out how to reach people who have the capacity to afford the best, the high-income professionals in the area, when that major technical leap happens. You're positioning yourself as the professional who keeps them ahead of the curve.
Technique 3 involves mining local newspapers for leads. You call this looking for the "I need help" message hidden in plain sight.
Champions don't waste time dwelling on generalized bad news. They read their local papers with a pen in hand, searching for status change. Look for promotions, send a short, sincere congratulatory note, and then call to see how you can help them with their new responsibilities. Look at the personal announcements. Engagements, marriages, births, and deaths. These all generate immediate needs for new homes, new insurance, larger cars, or handling estates. Status change equals need. And additionally, you have to check the specialized business papers or enthusiast publications. A person winning local yacht races or landing a major city contract is a hot lead. They need yacht insurance, fine furniture for their new home, luxury cars, investment services. We use the anecdote of the professional baseball player who was traded to a new city. That player instantly needed a new home, a car, recording equipment, investment services, local connections. That was a cluster of leads generated just by reading the news of the trade.
Let's move to technique 4, leads clubs or swamp meets. This leverages the power of non-competing professionals. What's the optimal structure and the ground rules you need to keep this system productive?
This is a fantastic, sustainable fountain of new business. You meet regularly. 4 to 6 strong salespeople is ideal in absolutely non-competing fields. Think, a real estate agent, a high-end insurance broker, a mortgage broker, a stockbroker, and maybe a landscaper.
And the rules?
The ground rules are simple but strict. It must be brief, upbeat, and useful. Everyone commits to bringing 2 good, pre-qualified leads each time they meet. Everyone must follow up promptly and thoroughly on the leads they receive. Nothing destroys a swap meet faster than letting it divide into takers and givers.
Right.
If someone is consistently a taker, they have to leave. And importantly, no one who has forgotten to bring enthusiasm is welcome. It's a system built on reciprocal professionalism and trust.
That sounds like a powerful way to exponentially multiply your prospecting efforts.
Yeah.
Let's shift now to handling incoming calls. What's the professional process, starting with just the simple mechanics of answering the phone?
The first step is simple. Answer on the third ring. Before the first ring is done, you sound too anxious. If you let it ring too long, you sound uninterested. The third ring gives the right impression of professionalism and availability. And the goal for incoming calls is almost always to close for the appointment, not the sale, unless you're strictly in telemarketing where the product is sold entirely over the phone.
And how do you maintain control and lead them toward confirming that meeting when they're likely just calling for a quick piece of information?
Well, you get their name immediately by saying something cordial like, "So I can serve you better and get this information right. May I have your name, please?" Then you use the power of questioning, answering most of their questions with your own questions. If they ask about the price, you don't answer directly.
What do you do instead?
You ask, is the total investment a major consideration in your decision to go ahead? Or, before I give you a number, could you tell me a little bit about the scope of the project so I can provide an accurate figure? You lead them naturally toward confirming a meeting because you need more information to fulfill their needs. And finally, you must reconfirm every single detail. The time, the location, your name, and you ask them to write it down. Why the request to write it down? Studies prove only a small percentage of people will follow instructions or remember details if they're only given them once verbally. Asking them to physically write down the date and time ensures they commit to the appointment.
That sets up the meeting perfectly. Now we move into the actual interaction. Your philosophy for the original contact is highly focused on psychology. What's the main overriding goal of that original contact?
Our main goal when first meeting a person is to remove fear and allow them to relax. Most people have developed a fear of being sold because of bad past experiences. If you come on too strong, like Bob Bountiful swooping down on a prospect like a vulture, they will immediately raise a tremendous psychological wall.
Defenses go right up.
Immediately. You have to create confidence and trust, not fear or defensiveness.
And you break that original contact into 5 simple, repeatable steps to achieve that trust.
Yes. Step 1. Smile. You must practice smiling in the mirror until you can radiate genuine warmth with both your eyes and your mouth. Second, look them in the eyes. Avoiding eye contact makes people instinctively question your honesty. Third, greet them properly. You should have at least 3 variations: ready formal, friendly, and happy-go-lucky, and select the greeting that best suits the prospect's apparent personality. Fourth, let them settle. If they have genuine interest in a specific product, they will home in on it. They might touch it or stay near it for a full minute. That is your signal. Fifth, ask an opening involvement question. You stroll over, not rush, and say, for example, would the television replace your old one, or is it going to be an additional set for your home? This immediately gets them talking about why they want the product, which smoothly leads directly to the next phase, qualification.
Qualification. You say this is the single biggest difference between high-income earners and those just getting by. Let's talk through the NEJ acronym in detail, because this is where the champion finds that efficiency.
Qualifying skill is everything. It prevents you from wasting hours with people who cannot say yes, don't have the money, or who want something you don't have. Need helps you discover the 5 key areas you must know before you dare to start your presentation.
So N stands for need.
Why are they interested? This has to be the deepest underlying reason. Are they looking for comfort, security, or gain? E stands for enjoy. What do they like most about their current product or service? This is vital. If your new product doesn't come close to matching what they enjoyed about their old one, you are wasting your time trying to fight their established pleasure points.
Okay.
A stands for analyze. Find out the limitations, disappointments, or problems with what they currently own, like setup time, durability, or slow speed. This gives you the specific leverage points you need to craft your presentation around solutions.
So using that framework, if I were selling a new, faster phone system to a small business, I would ask about what they enjoy about the existing analog system. Maybe it's simplicity, and what they analyze as its disappointment. Maybe the constant dropped calls. I use that to present only solutions to their pain.
Exactly. Now for the final 2 letters. D stands for decision maker. Who must be present for the purchase? In corporate sales, this means finding the gnomes in the back room, the financial gatekeepers who activate purchase orders, even if they don't have the official title of CEO. Never spend hours with anyone who doesn't have the ability to say yes.
And finally, S stands for serve solve, which relates to the timeline.
How soon will they make the decision? You must earn the right to ask for the sale, but you must ask. You use a low-pressure shrug-off phrase. If we're fortunate enough today to find the exact product that solves all your needs, will you be able to make the decision today? This reduces the pressure, making it easy for them to reveal the truth about their timeline, whether it's today, tomorrow, or 6 months from now.
You draw a powerful analogy between the champion salesperson and a doctor. How does the champion's consultation routine mirror the medical profession?
Professionals solve problems. They don't just prescribe a random drug. Like a doctor who diagnoses before prescribing treatment, the salesperson asks in-depth questions. That's the diagnosis. Uses diagnostic tools like a calculator, a pad of paper, or just their brain, and gathers all the necessary information. Only then do you zero in on the exact product or service that solves the client's problem or opens an opportunity. You should be in effective selling control, leading them through an organized involvement interview.
This concept emphasizes the salesperson's role as a decision maker for the client. The critique here is that it sounds like you are limiting the client's options.
Yeah.
How do you avoid the prospect feeling, restricted or manipulated?
You must make decisions for clients. If you don't, why do they need you? People want lower risk and higher return, a faster car that is also fuel efficient, or a machine that costs nothing to maintain. You know they can't have it all. Therefore, among your many products, and their many, sometimes conflicting desires, you use your expertise to decide which specific one item will work best for them. You are providing clarity, not restriction. Remember Alvin Gotmore, kids, who initially told the salesperson he wanted a small, stripped-down station wagon purely for utility. But Ron Realist, the champion salesperson, he listened to Alvin's deeper motivations, his desire for status, power, and comfort. Alvin walked away from the station wagons because what he truly wanted was a low-slung, fully loaded, powerful vehicle. Ron Realist sold him the Tiger because he read between the lines, even though Alvin's initial request was the opposite. Your role is to give them what they need to achieve their goal, not just what they think they want.
That ties neatly into the triplicate of choice, which is a structural method for framing decisions to make it easier for the client to proceed. How does that strategy work?
This strategy uses human nature to guide the decision toward the middle ground. First, the choice for product. If you have 8 available copiers, don't show all 8. You frame them into the 3 most likely logical options. The big, fully featured one, the medium, best value option, and the small, stripped-down one. You ask which best suits their needs. The prospect typically chooses the middle option because it represents a perceived balance of value and security.
And the second application, the choice for money.
Here, you structure 3 investment levels before you introduce the price of the actual solution. For example, you might introduce options at, say, $15,000 to $20,000, a second category at $12,000, and a third at $10,000. You ask them which investment category they fit into most comfortably.
The psychology here is fascinating. They anchor themselves high.
They don't want to be in the bottom category, so they naturally opt for the middle figure, say $12,000. You have successfully anchored their internal spending commitment at $12,000. You then reveal that the specific machine that meets all their requirements involves an investment of only $10,000, a figure substantially less than the amount they prepared themselves to spend. You've reframed the investment as a bargain, making the decision both logical and emotionally rewarding.
Let's discuss the structure of the presentation itself, the organized involvement interview. You stress speed and control, leading to the famous 17-minute rule.
You have to convey that you know exactly what you are doing and that the prospect's time will not be wasted. The key is to keep the prospect almost continuously busy with your product and with the mental process of becoming its owner. This means alternating selling statements with probing questions and involvement demonstrations, and critically, you have the 17-minute rule.
17 minutes, that's it.
After 17 minutes, people start to lose interest. They get bored and remember other things they should be doing. If your presentation takes 45 minutes, you've wasted 28 minutes. You must ruthlessly cut out unnecessary detail and streamline your content to get to the close quickly.
So the presentation must be concise, controlled, and visual. How do visual aids contribute to this efficiency and speed?
Visual aids are critical because they give you both control and speed. They should immediately tell the prospect 3 things: who you and your company are listing successful projects and achievements, what you've done, People base future decisions on past success, and what the product will do for them, the benefits and return on investment. You must be organized enough to have a crisp presentation binder free of dead pages and tailored to the specific product you are presenting. You cannot sell if you are fumbling through an 80-page catalog looking for a price.
That attention to detail continues into the psychological impact of language. Your focus here is on eliminating rejection words and replacing them with positive go-ahead terms.
This is fundamental applied psychology. The language we use either triggers negative emotional responses, which raise defenses, or positive buying emotions, which encourage agreement. We have to eliminate words that trigger defensive reactions immediately. For example, never use the word price or cost. Those terms imply spending money on a dead horse.
So what's the alternative?
Instead, you use total investment or total amount. What do you do when you invest? You put money to work to bring benefits back. It's a positive association.
And the ongoing expenditure. Monthly payment is a standard term.
Monthly payment becomes monthly investment or monthly amount because payment is a bookkeeper's or a bill collector's term. It implies debt and obligation. Investment implies growth and future security.
And the necessary legal language of the transaction. Words like contract and sign clearly trigger massive negative reactions because they remind people of lawsuits and commitment.
When people hear the word contract, their mind races straight to courtrooms and attorneys sending bills. We replace that with neutral and positive terms like paperwork, agreement, or form. And the nastiest rejection word of all is sign. Asking someone to sign here triggers an automatic defensive response. Champions never even hint that clients will be expected to sign anything.
So what do they say?
They ask them to okay the paperwork, approve the form, authorize the agreement, or endorse the file copies. This maintains the positive emotional climate right up to the close.
This all seems focused on smoothing the path toward agreement. Let's talk about the specific communication tool you recommend for gaining minor agreements, which are tie-downs.
Tie-downs are short questions added to the end of a positive statement to gain minor continuous agreements. Something like, this safety feature gives you tremendous peace of mind, won't it? They work by accumulating small yeses that lead to the final major yes. But there is an absolutely crucial rule here.
Which is?
Wait for the buyer's positive stimulus before using a tie-down.
Why is that rule so important? Can't I just tie down every positive feature of my product?
If you jump in too fast, you risk tying them down to a negative and exposing your lack of qualification. If you sell a collating machine and say, this separates and collates fast, doesn't it? And the office manager says, no, we never collate anything here. You've just wasted your breath. You must wait for the prospect to confirm a benefit, and then you tie that confirmed benefit down.
You also teach techniques for hiding the tie-down in the middle of a sentence using the internal form.
Yes. The smoothest way is to drop it into a complex sentence instead of the obvious. You can really control it well, can't you? You make it flow naturally. Once you get the feel of the controls, can't you really see how well you'll be able to manage the system? Or the tag-on tie-down is perfect when a strong-willed prospect is dominating the discussion. If the prospect says, for us, quality is the most important factor, you simply tag on, isn't it? He said it, so it's true, and you've gained a minor agreement without fighting him.
Then there is the preparation system behind all this flexibility. The triad concept. This sounds incredibly rigorous. How does a salesperson develop, 81 variations on an answer?
The triad concept is the difference between the prepared champion and the unprepared average salesperson. You have to develop such a huge inventory of responses that finding the perfect fit for every prospect's personality and concern becomes easy. You must design and practice 3 variations on every aspect of your selling sequence and emotional tone.
What are those 3 emotional tones?
You need to be able to shift instantly from being casual, relaxed, and alert to brisk, businesslike, and pleasant, or to intense, candid, and personal. You must match the buyer's energy. If they are brisk and direct, you have to be too.
And 3 emotional focuses on the content itself.
Correct. You need a response inventory that focuses on the technical aspects, emphasizing innovations and mechanical cost-effectiveness. The cost-effective aspects, focusing purely on savings, depreciation, efficiency, and the personal aspects, appealing to status, comfort, and security. If you practice all 3 tones across all 3 content focuses, you gain a massive number of variations on a single answer to any objection. This preparation ensures you never sound repetitive or unprepared.
That deep level of preparation is why you're called a champion. Now let's discuss the strategy that drives the presentation. People buy emotionally and justify logically.
This is the core principle that must drive your presentation structure. People buy emotionally and they justify logically. The champion's job is to focus heavily on arousing positive buying emotions for security, comfort, status, gain, pleasure. If you're not arousing positive emotions, you're raising negative ones, and you've lost the sale before you even get to the logic. The child wants the ookie cookies because of the emotional appeal status, strength, and the parent uses the logic vitamins and fiber to justify the emotional decision the child already made. Your presentation has to mirror that. Arise the desire first, provide the data second.
That transitions perfectly into the critical skill of objection handling. What is the detailed six-step formula for overcoming any concern?
The 6 steps are sequential and non-negotiable. 1. Listen intensely, do not interrupt. 2. Agree with them. Never fight their feelings or try to prove them wrong. If you start fighting their feelings, their negative emotions will take over. Instead, you use a softening phrase. I can absolutely appreciate that concern, or that must have been very frustrating.
And step 3 is crucial, leading them to self-correction.
3. Lead them to answer their own objection. Do you know that most prospects will answer their own objections if you'll just work at it and guide them with leading questions? If they say, I can't afford it, you might ask, if you had the absolute certainty this would make you money, how important would the initial investment be? You force them to clarify the real concern. 4. Answer the objection. You must be prepared. 5. Confirm the answer. Use tie-downs like, since that challenge is now clearly resolved, that settles that, doesn't it? And 6, change gears and immediately move on to the next step in your selling sequence or the next objection.
And what about the times when a client is highly resistant, perhaps holding on to old bitterness? You teach the put the shoe on their foot shock treatment technique.
For resistance rooted in past bitterness, it's highly effective. If Mr. Reinhardt is rejecting your DIM copier because of a past customer service problem, arguing about the machine's speed won't work, instead you say, Mr. Reinhardt, would you for a moment pretend that you're the president of DIM copiers and you just found out about this challenge with the repair service?
Yeah.
What would you do?
He's forced to rationalize fixing the problem, and you can then introduce your solution. What about a client who is currently happy with a competitor?
That's change their base review, their history. If Jane Moda at Red Eye Soap is happy with competitor KTO, you never knock KTO. You remind her of her own successful history of change. You ask her, you were previously advertising on K1E, weren't you? And you made the switch to KTO based on a tremendous amount of research and analysis, didn't you? She agrees. Then you ask, since you received greater performance by considering and making that change previously, isn't it possible that considering a new change today might lead to even greater performance? You used her history to justify considering a new path.
That brings us to the most critical stage, closing. Let's start with the minor closes that help lead to the decision. The porcupine technique is the most potent.
Yes, answering a prospect's question with a question that throws the commitment back at them. If a prospect asks, will this insurance policy have a cash value? You respond, is having cash value in the policy important to you? You use their answer to gain information and structure the next step, rather than simply giving away a piece of data.
And the question close uses the answer from the porcupine to initiate the paperwork.
The buyer asks a question, you porcupine it back, they give a positive answer like, yes, blue is the color I'd prefer, and you immediately write that detail on the order form, saying, let me make a note of that so I don't forget. If they challenge you, wait, what are you doing? You respond calmly, I organize my thoughts and keep everything in the proper perspective on the paperwork so I don't forget anything that could potentially cost you time or money later.
Let's move to the power closes, starting with the reduction to the ridiculous close for the cost objection.
The problem is that average salespeople focus on the total investment. Champions focus on the difference. First, you establish how much too much they think it is. If the total is $10,000 but they budgeted $8,000, the challenge is only $2,000. Then you use the calculator and insist on the prospect's physical involvement to reduce that difference to a daily cost.
How does that look in practice for the $2,000 difference over 5 years?
You hand them the calculator. Okay, let's divide $2,000 by 5 years of useful life. That's $400 a year. Divide 400 by 50 working weeks. That's $8 a week. Now divide $8 by 7 days in the week, and we get just $1.33 per day.
Huh.
You smile and ask the key question. Do you truly think we should let $1.33 a day stand between you and this machine with all its sophisticated capabilities and time-saving features, which will make more profit for your company in a whole day than a clerk can in 20 minutes? This reduces the enormous sum to a ridiculous, easily justified daily cost.
The numbers are indeed powerful. Next, the Ben Franklin closer, close to combat client vagueness.
When they say they need to think it over, you agree with the concept of sound analysis, reminding them of Benjamin Franklin's method. List all the reasons favoring the decision on one side and all those against it on the other. You list all the benefits they already agreed upon, the yeses on the positive side. You let the prospect list the negatives on their own. The sheer weight of the positive benefits that you have listed and gained agreement on typically makes the decision obvious.
Speaking of the classic, I want to think it over stall. How do we break through it when the Ben Franklin close doesn't isolate the issue?
The I want to think it over close is designed to isolate the final single objection. You agree to the stall, but then you question what specifically they need to think about. You'll use a series of isolation questions. Is it the product itself? Is it me? Is it the company? Is it the decision maker? Or is it the investment? Once they grab one of those objections, you have the final hurdle. For 90% of people, the final objection will be money. You only transition into a money close once that final objection is isolated.
And the final major close we should cover, the sharp angle close.
This is the high-level porcupine. You answer a buying question with a closing question that forces an immediate commitment. If Mr. Zale asks, if we decided to go with your product, we'd have to take delivery by June 15th. Could you handle that? The champion immediately responds, if I guarantee June 15th delivery, will you buy it? You leverage their express need to force the commitment now.
Okay, the sale is closed. Now, the long-term success of a champion relies on consistency and maximizing that initial sale through referrals. How do we approach asking for referrals?
Referrals are the lifeblood. The best course is a client whose problem you successfully solved. We use a technique for asking for referrals that ensures their physical involvement. After the Harrisons buy their new car, I tell them I'm going to grab a quick coffee. While I'm gone, I hand them 3x5 cards and ask them to write down the names and addresses of the friends they mentioned during our conversation. You return, ask for permission to contact them, and promise high-quality service.
That commitment to service extends even to people who didn't buy from you via the power of thank you notes.
Send written thanks immediately, even to people who did not buy from you. This is crucial for building long-term goodwill. If they buy from the competition and later become dissatisfied or orphaned, they will remember the kind professional salesperson who sent the thank you note. That becomes the best kind of referral.
For long-term organization, you advocate establishing a follow-up system using hot, medium, and cold files.
You have to operate like a business unto yourself. Hot files are people who should buy now. Medium files are people who expressed a mild or future need for what you sell, typically in 6 to 18 months. Cold files are people who may eventually need your product but are years away. Champions work through their medium files whenever a new product or concept emerges, knowing it will turn some of those mediums into hots.
You also emphasize goal setting and self-discipline. You state that the rule to live by is, everything worthwhile is uphill.
Goals must be set in writing. Start with short-term goals, the new car, and build to long-term goals, like the 20-year plan. Goals must be vivid. You have to be able to see, smell, and feel the reality of the goal when you review it every morning and evening. You can't rise unless you set goals that make you stretch.
And what separates the champions from the average when it comes to the administrative tasks?
Paperwork. No single quality separates champions from the average more than doing administrative things right the first time. The top salespeople are too busy closing to waste time answering avoidable questions about carelessly written orders. They double-check everything for accuracy and clarity because champions prefer the hot sweat of work to the cold sweat of worry.
And finally, when the inevitable slump hits, you have the powerful GOYA formula, get off your anatomy.
That is the only cure for a slump. When you are feeling down, the only thing that will get you up and closing again is to start working. A slump almost always happens because you drifted away from the basics. Stop being a worry machine. Stop demanding fairness from life. The key is action. Do it now. You can change any habit, including procrastination, if you concentrate on the new replacement habit for 21 days without missing a stroke.
This entire philosophy of selling clearly extends beyond the office. How do we apply these sales skills to the most important people in our lives, our friends and family?
You have to keep your skills turned on at home, especially if your career is growing rapidly. You can use your skills to lead your family toward achieving goals they choose for themselves and to keep your communication positive.
For instance, using the alternate advance to avoid say no questions at home.
Yes. Instead of asking your spouse, do you want to go out to dinner tonight? which invites a passive no. You ask, would you like to have dinner at the Blue Bucket? Or would you rather eat at Smoky Joe's? When an alternate advance will achieve a positive outcome you want, why ask a question that allows a no?
Right.
You can also use the porcupine to clarify domestic issues. When a child asks, Dad, can we get a pet rattlesnake? You respond, what makes you think a rattlesnake would make a good pet?
Yeah.
Getting them to elaborate is the goal.
And using tie-downs to reinforce positive behavior at home.
You use tie-downs when talking with your family to reinforce the positive things you want to have happen. Use go-ahead terms instead of rejection words. The overall goal is simple. Encourage your loved ones to pay the price to achieve goals they've chosen for themselves. Miss no opportunity to motivate them to act instead of just watch.
Thank you. This has been a really comprehensive walkthrough of how to master the art of selling. This conversation gives our listeners a clear understanding of professional selling built on skill, structure, and confidence.
Thank you. I hope these ideas help listeners approach selling with professionalism and belief in themselves.
This has been The Deep Dive. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next Deep Dive. The expert speaker emphasized that you can change any habit you want in just 21 days by concentrating on the new habit. What new selling habit will you start implementing today?